From our studios in New York, here again is Jane Pauley.
If you're a homeowner, you know the drill. Something wears out, something breaks. You call the plumber, the electrician, the painter. But when you get the bill, you often wonder, was I ripped off? Of course, most of these people are reliable and trustworthy. But what about companies that try to convince you to fix something that's not even broken? We heard about one home improvement business accused of leaving some customers high and not so dry. Sarah James has our hidden camera investigation, part of a Dateline consumer alert.
We had like a moat around the back of the house, and the water just gushed in through the walls.
Imagine just for a moment that this is your basement. Water squirting through the cracks, running down the walls, enough to scare anyone, especially Dawn and Dave Bratton, because they didn't have to imagine it. This is their home.
It's like unbelievable, because you go down there at night and you just see silver streaks on the wall from so many slugs coming in.
They say it started with an unsolicited call from a waterproofing company.
What did you think you were going to get?
What did I think I was going to get? Just a nice dry basement.
But the home movies you've been watching were taken by the Brattons after they paid $6,000 to have their basement waterproofed. They say the job was so poorly done, the company had to come back to fix it. And when rain filled open trenches during the repairs, the basement flooded. 3 years later, the Brattons say it's still damp, and they're suing.
How angry are you at what happened to you?
I'm pretty upset, and I hate to think that it's going to happen to somebody else.
Could it? Who do you turn to if water is pouring into your basement? Well, an entire industry has sprung up to help you. But there are questions about some of these companies and their claims. And as our Dateline hidden cameras will show you, it pays to be careful.
Okay, so you're going to come at 11 and you will...
We enlisted the help of 76-year-old Mary Philippi, who agreed to let us set up hidden cameras in her Indiana home. In 15 years, Mary says she never had water in her basement. That is until this summer, when she mistakenly left a garden hose on overnight. It flooded the window well and left a puddle underneath. With that one exception, Mary says her basement has been dry.
I didn't see any evidence of any moisture coming through the drywall.
But Dateline went even further. We had her basement inspected by Al Mendelson, a licensed contractor and technical expert for the Better Business Bureau.
So there is no need to waterproof that basement?
No.
And just to be sure, Dateline had it double-checked by Chris Schnepp, a home inspector.
What is this now?
It's a moisture meter.
Schnepp is president of the local chapter of the American Society of Home Inspectors and has inspected thousands of homes. He found just the one damp spot.
So based on that, there's no reason to waterproof this basement?
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
2 independent contractors, 1 conclusion. But what would happen when we called several waterproofing companies?
Well...
This ad convinced Mary to try Be Dry.
Okay, Bill. Watch your head.
Mary explained that she was considering making her basement an office, but had noticed water in one spot just weeks before. She deliberately did not say how the water had gotten there, but did say it had happened only once.
It would be my suggestion or belief that you don't have a waterproofing problem, you have a gutter problem.
I see.
No.
That's right. Be Dry's diagnosis was exactly the same as our independent contractors. The basement simply didn't need waterproofing.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Be Dry's president and owner, William Anderson, left without charging a dime.
How important a factor was it when Mary told you it had only happened once?
That was very significant, and the other thing that was also significant was the fact that it was only in one limited spot. And so the two together led me to believe that I better look around outside and see if I can identify anything that would have caused that.
So far, so good. Mary found SureDry in the Yellow Pages too, and she gave them the same set of facts.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
But right from the start, SureDry's pitch was different. The saleswoman told Mary Philippi she could have big problems, problems only waterproofing could fix.
Because your tile underneath,
yes,
it's collapsed and broken, okay? It's not going to reseal itself.
So you're saying that the tile under the house is collapsed and broken.
Most likely. I can't see under your house.
But SureDry could see the solution. Install a new exterior and interior drainage system, complete with a dry well and pump.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and you want to definitely fix your problem. It's your foundation. It's what's supporting your home.
And how much would that cost? More than $4,000. $4,000 for a job 2 independent contractors told Dateline Mary didn't need. SureDry President Bill Long.
Well, I think, again, you've got to look at the concept of how we sell. We're selling people the peace of mind of having a dry basement.
But in this case, she already had a dry basement.
Long says occasionally, after a closer inspection, he decides that work doesn't need to be done. Besides, he says he offers a lifetime warranty of a dry basement.
She didn't need to be guaranteed a dry basement because, in fact, she already had one. Shouldn't SureDry have gone a little bit further to make sure that she needed a dry basement?
She called in, she asked for an appointment. We sent an inspector out, as we do normally, and we priced the full basement to do her job. And ultimately, she has the choice to decide if she wants to use our services.
But if that choice sounds expensive and unnecessary, just wait. Dateline asked Mary to call EverDry of Central Indiana, which says it's part of the largest waterproofing company in the nation. Mary gave EverDry the same information.
Okay. Are you getting water or dampness or
Well, I had one occasion of water problem.
In fact, Mary told EverDry's salesman 5 separate times she'd only had water once. Her sump pump was so dry, it had cobwebs on it.
So this never runs, you say? Hardly ever?
If ever.
If ever.
If ever.
Okay. Wow.
So is the basement fine? Not so fast. Oh no, what could be wrong? Plenty, if you listen to EverDry's salesman.
Do you notice when you're down here at all that you may maybe get a little scratchy throat or runny nose or scratchy eyes or maybe some upset stomach, that type of thing? You know?
Well, maybe. I don't. Guess I never thought about it.
Are you diabetic?
No.
The waterproofing doctors at EverDry seem to be suggesting Mary's basement could make her sick.
You're saying on this wall here, there is mildew?
Back in along this wall?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mildew.
An elderly man with diabetes died from complications caused by, pneumonia, which was from the mold and mildew and things like that.
Terrifying health risks linked to mold. Mold EverDry says it found hiding in Mary's basement. Robert DiCello is the president of EverDry of Central Indiana.
How do your salespeople test for mold and mildew?
We don't do that.
Then how do they tell a homeowner that they have mold and mildew?
We don't do that.
We have some tape, and we'll show you where they're telling her that she has mold and mildew in her basement.
You're saying on this wall here, there is mildew?
Back in along this wall?
Yes.
Oh,
So they mention mold and mildew, and then they mention very frightening health risks. Somebody, an elderly person, dying.
What we find, again, is when people are calling us, we're finding that what most people are concerned about now, because there's been a lot of press about the health effects of mold in the house.
But wait a minute. Mary didn't bring up health problems linked to mold. The salesman did.
No, have you noticed the musty odors and the smells upstairs, like in the closets and things?
No.
And Dateline called on Skip Hallenik, whose nationally recognized expertise with a microscope has helped solve murder cases, to do a little detective work in Mary's basement.
There's no outward signs of any mold on any of these.
According to his report, simply put, no mold was detected. A simple misdiagnosis by EverDry?
Let me just show you quickly just where we are.
Well, listen to them give their credentials.
We're certified and members of all the main organizations that you would expect us to.
Are you with the Chamber of Commerce?
Chamber of Commerce, the Builders Association.
Better Business Bureau?
That's right.
No, that's wrong. Linda Carmody is the director.
They are not a member of the Better Business Bureau.
In fact, wasn't their membership revoked?
In fact, their membership was revoked, yes.
Why?
Because they had a pattern of complaints.
Why did your salesman then lie to Mary Philippi and tell her that you were a member of the Better Business Bureau?
Well, I'm not aware that he did, and that's not what we teach our people, and that's not what our people practice.
They did indeed tell her that.
I'm not aware of that.
They also mentioned membership in some other organizations, including the Chamber of Commerce. You're not a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
We have been members of the Chamber of Commerce for several years.
You are not currently, and you were not at the time when your salesman said so to Mary Philippi.
Okay.
EverDry says its job is to educate the homeowner that it doesn't sell repairs, but a complete system to ensure that a basement stays dry. Bob DiCello says the system is very good, even patented. But is that approach always necessary? Consumer groups recommend trying things like patching cracks, slapping on waterproof paint, even cleaning the gutters, all very inexpensive options.
What does EverDry recommend for Mary Philippi? Its patented multi-step system, which costs big bucks.
It'd only be $63.24.
That's right, only $6,000 to waterproof a dry basement.
Your advertisements mention inspections. Is it really just about sales? If somebody calls for an inspection, are they going to basically get a $6,000 sales pitch?
No, that's not what we do.
DiCello says that $6,000 buys a customer peace of mind, and that's just what he says EverDry offered Mary Philippi.
She told me when I spoke to her on the telephone, she didn't want to have to worry about having any kind of problem down the road. So we weren't there saying, you got an existing problem that we're addressing. That wasn't really the case here.
But if there's no existing problem, why did EverDry give Mary this diagnosis?
You know, if your daughter asks you, Mom, what they find the problem to be, you can say, I've got a cracked foundation.
Right.
DiCello says he has thousands of satisfied customers and the letters to prove it.
I mean, the homeowner telling us that we have done a great job for them.
But to hear this former general manager of EverDry tell it, what happened to Mary Philippi was no exception.
How would you say EverDry looks at the customer?
Revenue.
Chris Stegman worked for EverDry for 5.5 years, starting in 1988 when he was just 19. He says he began as a salesman, worked his way up, and saw it all.
Wow.
Take that tapping on the floor at Mary's house.
You're looking like the professional, tapping on the floor. It's all for show.
Were you told how to do that in your sales classes?
Correct.
Stegman says the key is to scare the homeowner. Remember the salesman telling Mary Philippi about the potential hazards of mold?
Okay, little children with, with their immune systems.
It's set up to create the fear of the unknown of what could happen to your children if they're playing down in the basement. You know, they hit on people's hot buttons.
Do you train your salespeople to try to scare homeowners?
No, that's not what we do.
Do you train them to use words like critical, major, advanced?
No.
DiCello says he criticized Stegman for his job performance. Stegman quit and went to work for a competitor. But if you think he's just a disgruntled former employee, then see if this sounds familiar.
And also setting the stage for creating a problem which is much more severe than the homeowner may have thought.
You're listening to a sales presentation by Nick DiCello, Bob's older brother and president of the company that sells the EverDry franchise. Dateline obtained a copy of this company training video. Nick DiCello declined to comment, but his consultant says the video hasn't been used in more than 5 years and wasn't used to train the salesman who went to Mary's house. But listen again to what's on that videotape.
I want to be using words like major, advanced, critical.
Listen to the salesman who went to Mary's house.
You're getting some critical hollow spots underneath the floor itself.
Remember what Chris Stegman said about creating fear? Listen to Nick DiCello.
What we're looking to create here is the fear of the unknown.
But if the videotape no longer reflects the company's way of doing business, why did the salesman tell Mary this?
It can be unhealthy, unsafe if you got outlets and water and people, things like that.
Right.
It seems the salesman's motto is still magnify the problem.
When I find cracking, I really want to overreact to this.
See this, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just literally starting to crumble away.
The bottom line?
No fear, no urgency, no damage, no problem, and no sale.
No fear, no urgency, no damage, no problem, no sale. Is that the EverDry philosophy?
No. Our philosophy is help the homeowner.
We played our undercover video for Indiana's Attorney General, Pam Carter.
These guys suggested that it would be more than $6,000 for her to waterproof the basement. What do you think after seeing that?
Well, these individuals are crooks, pure and simple. And one of the things that people have to understand, just because you don't hold a person up with a gun and they don't go through our criminal justice system, somehow we tend to be more lenient in our concept of what they are doing.
Strong words, but so far she's never brought charges. She says that's because these cases can be difficult to prosecute. Often the only evidence is one person's word against another. And remember the Brattons, the water pouring into their basement in the middle of those repairs? Well, they say 3 years and $6,000 later, their basement still isn't dry. They're suing. Which company? EverDry of Central Indiana.
We should tell you the Indiana Attorney General's office has mediated more than 20 complaints involving EverDry of Central Indiana. All but one have been settled. As for the Brattons, whose basement you saw, Bob DiCello says he returned to the Brattons' home several times and could find no problem. He says he'll defend his company's work in court.